Assalamu alaikum and Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So today our lecture, which is first lecture of week 10, is on digital to analog converters, and this topic is from chapter 13 of your textbook. So the question is why we need digital to analog converters. So the first application is in actuators. Actuators can be defined as devices or components which interface a plant with a controller. An example would be a motor which move a robotic arm in response to some analog control signal. So in order to operate these actuators such as motors, heating elements, uh, solenoid valves, etc., we need analog signal. So therefore we need to convert the output from our computers, microcontrollers and DSP chips into an analog signal, and for this purpose we need a digital to analog converter. Furthermore, the ADC, which is the opposite of digital to analog converter, so ADC stands for analog to digital converter. It also utilizes a digital to analog converter in its circuitry. So to implement a certain type of ADC, we also require digital to analog converter. Furthermore, there is another problem in digital circuits, that we cannot implement true low pass, high pass or band pass filters, because these filters are infinite impulse response filters, which are not very feasible in a digital circuitry. In fact, it's impossible to implement a true infinite impulse response filter in a digital circuit. So we can also make use of analog filters for this purpose. And finally, if you want to transmit some signal, we need to convert it into an analog signal. So for this purpose we can also use a digital to analog converter. So let's start with the basic theory. So what is the function of a digital to analog converter? So the input to a digital to analog converter is an n bit binary number with value equal to m, and the output is then proportional to the value of this binary number. So you can see the equation on this slide. V naught is equal to k times m, where k would be a real number. So the value of n digit binary number, as you can recall from your digital logic design course, would be given by the equation at the bottom of this slide. So the function of digital to analog converter is then to give an analog voltage which is proportional to the value of this binary number. So let's see how does this task can be accomplished. So here is a 3-bit digital to analog converter circuit. Usually you will have more number of bits. So the circuit for an n digit digital to analog converter will be shown at the end of this lecture, inshallah. So let's have a look at this circuit. The input nodes are node 4, 5 and 6. So how does the voltages at these nodes relate to the binary input? These nodes are connected to the input signal, which is a digital signal, in such a manner that the node voltage is either VR or 0. The respective node voltage is VR if the respective bit is 1, and it is 0 if the respective bit is 0. So as an example, node number 4 will have voltage equal to VR if D2 is equal to 1, and its voltage will be 0 if D2 is 0. Similarly, in case of the node 5, the voltage will be equal to VR if D1 is equal to 1, and it will be 0 if D1 is 0. And similarly, in case of node 6, the voltage will be equal to VR if D0 is 1, and will be 0 if D0 is 0. This can be accomplished by a switch which connects these nodes to a voltage VR, and the switches are then controlled by the respective bits. So now let's look at this information in a tabular form. So in the leftmost column you have the binary number, and then you have the value of this binary number, and then you have the voltages V4, V5 and V6. So if the input binary number is 0, 0, 0, then all voltages are 0. And as you can see from the table that we are discussing a 3-bit digital to analog converter. However, this concept can be extended to an n-bit digital to analog converter. Similarly, when the binary number is 0, 0, 1, V6 is equal to VR and the rest of the voltages are equal to 0. And we have set of voltages which correspond to all possible binary numbers as far as 3-bit binary numbers are concerned. The highest binary number that we can have is 111, which correspond to 7, and in this case all the voltages V4, V5 and V6 are equal to VR. VR is the reference voltage which will be controlled by the power supply. Now for ease of understanding, we can assume that the VR is equal to 8 volts. So in this case, you can then see in this table what will be the respective voltages. For example, in case of 0, 1, 1, which correspond to binary 3, V4 is equal to 0, V5 and V6 are equal to 8 volts. And here I remind you that node 4 correspond to the highest or the most significant bit, whereas node 6 correspond to the least significant bit. And then there is another point, you can see a voltage follower circuit. At the right end of this digital to analog converter. The purpose of this voltage follower is to isolate the output from the ladder network. So this circuit, which consists of the arrangement of these resistors, is known as a ladder network, so that the output circuitry does not load the digital to analog converters ladder network circuit, because otherwise our analysis will be no longer valid. The analysis that we are going to perform assumes that there is no current flow out of this circuit. So let's discuss the case of an n-bit digital to analog converter. The output voltage will be equal to k times m, where k is a certain constant and m is the value of the binary number. This is the point that we have already discussed. So now the question is, what is the value or expression for k? Now k will be equal to Vr, which is the reference voltage, and divided by 2 raised to power capital N. Capital N is the number of bits in digital to analog converter. So the largest number that we can have will be equal to 2 raised to power n minus 1. So this means that the output voltage will always be less than reference voltage. Whereas the expression for m, the value of binary number, is given at the bottom of the slide. And this is the standard equation for conversion of a binary number into a decimal number. The circuit shown here is for a 3-bit digital to analog converter, but the concept can be extended for an n-bit converter, and the circuit will be shown at the end of the lecture, inshallah. So here is the case for a 3-bit digital to analog converter. So for a 3-bit digital to analog converter, n is 3, so k will be equal to Vr divided by 8, and the expression of m would be that for a standard 3-bit number. So then V0 will be equal to Vr divided by 8 into the value of the binary number. So the highest value of the binary number in case of 3 bits is 7. So the highest possible value for V0 will be 7 by 8 times Vr. So for example, if Vr is 12 volt, then the highest value of output voltage that we can have would be 10.5, as k would be 12 divided by 8, which is 1.5. And the lowest value for V0 is of course 0 volt. So how do we prove the equation that we just showed for the output of a digital to analog converter? Now, as the circuit is apparently a bit complicated, so we need to do some simplifications. So first we will do the analysis of the impedance seen from various nodes of this circuit, and this analysis shows us a very interesting property of this circuit. So let's see what is this property. So as a first step, we remove the op amp, because the impedance of the input terminals of an op amp is very high. It's at least 1 mega ohms. So we can approximate it as an open circuit. So after removal of the op amp, this circuit looks as shown here. So once we have done this impedance analysis and we have obtained some information about the characteristics of the impedance seen from various nodes of this circuit, we can use this information to obtain the expression for V0. So what we are going to do, we are going to combine this expression, these characteristics of the impedances seen from various nodes of this circuit with the superposition principle to obtain V naught. So let's proceed further. So here now we can have a look at node 3. So the impedance seen towards left while looking from node 3 is equal to 2R. So here is another point. The resistances are either R or 2R. So R can have any reasonable value from 100 ohms to a few kilo ohms. So the impedance seen looking left from node 3 is 2R. So please keep this point in mind, because now we are going to see a very interesting pattern. So now we move to next step, where we take the parallel combination of the two resistors which are attached to node 3. So now the equivalent resistance of the two resistances attached to node 3 is R. So now the circuit look as shown on the left side of this slide. So again we can see, after combining the two resistances attached to node 3, that the total resistance seen from node 2 while looking towards left is 2R. So in the previous slide we saw that the resistance seen while looking from node 3 towards left is 2R, and after simplification we have observed that the total resistance seen looking left from node 2 is 2R as well. So a very interesting pattern is now emerging. In both the cases, whether it's node 3 or node 2, the total resistance is 2R if you're looking towards left from that node. So let's see if the same situation holds for node 1 as well. So now after simplification, this circuit looks like this, and here we can see that even in case of node 1, the total resistance seen while looking towards left is 2R. So whichever node we take, whether it's node 1, node 2 or node 3, the equivalent resistance while looking towards left is 2R. Now this is a very interesting property when we want to find the output voltage, because then we don't need to solve the whole circuit which lies to the left of a respective node. If we want to find the total current flowing from either node 1, node 2 or node 3, we can take all the resistances which are to the left of that respective node as equal to 2R and solve our circuit. So now we have this information, and we can then combine this information with superposition principle to obtain V naught. So now we apply the superposition principle to find V naught. So V naught will be sum of voltages due to V4, V5 and V6. V4 is the voltage at node 4, and this voltage is controlled by bit D2. So V4 will be equal to VR if D2 is 1 and 0 otherwise. And similarly V5 correspond to bit D1, and V6 correspond to bit D0, and V0 will then be sum of voltage due to V4, voltage due to V5 and voltage due to V6. So now the task is to find VD0, which is the voltage due to V6, VD1, which is the voltage due to V5, and VD2, which is voltage due to V4. So the procedure would be that all the voltage sources will be replaced by ground except the voltage source which is under consideration. So let's proceed to do the analysis. So first we start with V4, which correspond to bit D2. So all the other voltages have been replaced by ground. Now here we will use the property of the circuit that we just derived, that is all the voltages, all the resistances to the left of node 1 can be combined to obtain an equivalent resistance which is equal to 2R. So this simplifies our circuit, which you can see on the right side of this slide. And here the answer is then very simple. It can simply be obtained by applying the voltage divider law, because you simply have two resistors which are in series with each other and the resistances are equal, so the voltage at node 1 will be simply half of voltage at node 4. Then we proceed to bit D1, which controls the voltage V5, and we have to find VD1 resulting from V5. So all the other voltages have been replaced by ground, and again we use the property that all the resistances to the left of node 2 can be replaced by an equivalent resistance which is equal to 2R, and the voltage that we obtain by doing the analysis will be equal to V5 divided by 4. And finally we can proceed to find VD0. So in case of VD0 we just have one resistance to the left of node 3, so we cannot simplify it any further using the property that all the resistances to the left of node 1, 2 or 3 can be combined and into an equivalent resistance equal to 2R. And when we analyze this circuit, we obtain the expression for VD0 equal to V6 by 8. So now we have all the three voltages which we need to find V0. So now as we have obtained the expressions for VD2, VD1 and VD0, that is the contribution of the voltages due to bit D2, D1 and D0, we can obtain the expression for output voltage V0. So V0 will then be equal to sum of these three voltages, and after simplification we can see that we get an expression in which V0 is proportional to the value of the input binary number with the constant of proportionality K given by reference voltage divided by 8, which can be written as 2 raised to power 3. Now we can generalize this analysis for an n-bit digital to analog converter. So V0 will be equal to K into M as before, where M is the value of the binary number. K will be equal to the reference voltage divided by 2 raised to the power n. And the value of binary number will be given by the standard expression for binary to decimal conversion. Now here is another important point which we should keep in mind. When m is changed by 1, that is when the value of binary number is changed by 1. So if we have two binary numbers whose value differ only by 1, for example 110 and 111. So 110 correspond to 6 and 111 correspond to 7. So the difference between them is just 1. So in this case the difference between the output voltage for each case will be equal to K. So K is basically the minimum step size in the output of digital to analog conversion, and it's a very important parameter, because if this minimum step size is comparable or smaller than the noise voltages in the circuit, then we will not get the correct output. So K, which is also the minimum step size in the output of the digital to analog converter, must be considerably greater than all the noise voltages, and the main source of noise will be the input offset voltage and the input offset currents. These two offsets will generate a noise voltage at the output. So the value of K should be several times greater than the total offsets in the circuit in order to have a reliable output. So now we can extend this concept to an n-bit digital to analog converter, and this is how the circuit for an n-bit digital to analog converter looks like. It's simply extending the network of R and 2R to n stages, and the leftmost resistor 2R will be grounded. It will not be connected to any voltage source, and the number of stages is limited by the fact that K should be much greater than the noise voltage in the circuit, and K, as we have discussed just now, will be equal to reference voltage divided by 2 raised to power n. So basically this puts the maximum limit on n, because for n above certain value K will be smaller or comparable to noise voltages, and then the circuit will not function properly. So that's why digital to analog converter with very large number of bits is not very common. So let's summarize our discussion. So today's discussion was on digital to analog converter, which we require for many applications, especially for providing analog signals to actuators which cannot directly function with digital signals coming out of microcontrollers or DSP chips. The digital to analog converter gives an output voltage which is directly proportional to the input binary number, with V naught equal to K into M, where K is the constant of proportionality, and the value of K will be equal to the reference voltage divided by 2 raised to power n. So which is approximately reference voltage divided by the largest binary number possible for the given number of bits. So in the next lecture we will discuss analog to digital converter inshallah, and then we will also discuss some issues which relates to analog to digital and digital to analog converter. So some of the issues will be discussed in the next lecture, whereas others would be discussed in the interactive session corresponding to today's lecture and the next lecture. Okay, Khudafiz and good luck.